Hello, good morning, and welcome to the latest episode in the Lamudi webinar series titled Strategizing Real Estate Marketing and Industry Response to Covid-19. In today's session, we will explore the challenges posed to business strategy brought about by the Covid-19 crisis and ask what measures and modifications we can implement, particularly to our marketing strategies, to remain relevant during the ongoing outbreak. As always, we welcome your questions in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible, or we'll feature them in the next episode. Joining me for today's session are two leading industry experts who have kindly offered up their insights into best practice during this unprecedented period in the history of the Philippine real estate industry. First up, Cary Lagdameo, First Vice President of Damosa Land Inc., and he's joined by Vince Abejo, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at Filinvest Land. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting us, Mark.
Great, I'll jump straight in. I'll jump straight in with the first question. First of all, a kind of broad look at operations. How are your operations, and what measures, if any, have you taken so far to address any major or minor changes to business strategy that have accompanied your local quarantine measures? And really, are you looking to implement them in the short term, or are you looking kind of more long term with these changes? I'll start with Cary, just because I think Davao, particularly as a region, is slightly further behind in terms of its phase compared to Luzon and Metro Manila. And I'm wondering if that's given you the opportunity to learn from other businesses and kind of take on board what's happened in advance.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think we did have a bit of an advantage in that Davao only went under a stricter quarantine period starting just late last week. So Metro Manila went ahead by about a little over, just shy of about 2 weeks. So at least we were able to see what were the things that were implemented and that were put in place in Manila, and at least we were able to adapt that to the business or to our business in Davao. But having said that, I think everybody's all kind of on the same page now. So movement is very limited. In our case, construction work has really slowed down quite a bit. I think everybody now is on video calls, whereas maybe about a week ago, we still had some project managers that would be on site. But now that's kind of all gone. So, I mean, to answer your question, I think some of the minor changes that have been made, just like everybody else, we've had to retool our meetings. Everybody's on video calls. We've also had to make sure that all of our properties are following the right hygiene procedures and virus preventive procedures. We've also had to see how we can scale back on construction without totally stopping, because in Davao, they were actually allowing construction work to continue, but with skeletal workforces. So we are taking advantage of that. So I think those are the kinds of the things that we were doing in the immediate and for I would say the short-term period. Major changes. Well, look, I think all of us would agree that our 2020 projections are just all out the window. But we've really had to take a look at that and see which projects we are really going to undertake for this year. So what CapEx are we still going to pursue? And if ever we're going to push back, how far back would we be pushing it? And also which projects would be essential for this year? Given that we are expecting a worst case scenario wherein the country might go into a recession or at least into very low growth for this year. So we have to be selective now of which projects are really going to move forward or get pushed to the next year. But I think, again, just like with everybody, this is such a fluid situation. So we're reviewing this, and we're constantly reviewing this, not even on a weekly basis, but probably on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it seems to be more focused on kind of construction and keeping that maintenance going. I'm wondering, how about, obviously there's been a big effect on kind of sales, but did you have existing pipeline that you've kind of been able to close, or has everything kind of stood still from that perspective?
Well, we were able to still close a couple of deals right before the start of the quarantine period. Not many though, to be honest, but we do have several projects that are currently ongoing. And so those are the ones that we're still trying to maintain as much as we can. But at the end of the day, it's really all about employee welfare. So we said that we didn't want to put anybody in harm's way. So if the employees and the construction workers don't want to work, then we're not going to force it. But if they're going to allow us to work in such a way that the social distancing is observed, and there's a very minimal workers on site, and the workers are willing to work, then we're allowing that. But in terms of, especially this week moving forward, in terms of closing transactions, I would say there's going to be very little of that.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's good insight. And then over to you, Vince. I think Filinvest are in a slightly different position as well, in that you're a kind of national operation. So has that led to a kind of one-size-fits-all approach to your restrictions, or are you is it a bit more fragmented? Are you looking at it at a kind of case-by-case status?
Well, I mean, for starters, when the whole enhanced community quarantine was declared, it was not across the board. It was not a nationwide declaration. First was Luzon, and then bit by bit we saw this happening across the regions. And in the case of Filinvest, where we operate, or we have over 175 ongoing developments in 48 key areas in the country. I mean, one can imagine the degree of complexity that we had to go through to be able to manage all of these things as it was unfolding. So I suppose I kind of go back to day one, when day one. So I started off like any other day, and I recall being called into the boardroom to have an emergency meeting. And in that meeting, our president decided to activate our business continuity protocol. And clearly in that meeting, we had to brainstorm as a team. All of the key executives were in that meeting. All of the business unit heads were in that meeting, and we even had people on conference and across the Philippines, and we were discussing the issues. We were discussing what we had to do to ensure business continuity, to continue to serve our key stakeholders. And I'm very happy to say that we were able to put together a cohesive and well thought out business continuity plan, and a piece, and I would say that the backbone of this whole business continuity plan is technology. I mean, you and I are now having this Zoom conference. We're now doing everything via digital communications. And so our investments in technology really paid off in a big way, because I mean, as you alluded to a while ago, really one of the most important, if not the key thing that had to be done, was to reach out to all of our stakeholders and communicate to them. Tell them what's happening, tell them what's going on, and tell them what to expect. Essentially, manage their expectations. So when the enhanced community quarantine was in fact declared, we sent out different types of communications to all of our stakeholders, our customers, our shareholders, our employees, our business partners, our sellers, essentially telling them what's going on and what they needed to do in order for our business to continue doing and operating the way it has to operate, sure, despite the constraints. So clearly, we've been in this business for 50 years. We've seen different political cycles, different economic cycles, different financial cycles, and you're right in saying that this is probably one of those hopefully once in a lifetime occurrence that will really redefine the spirit, character, and values of any organization.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, it's really obvious some of the, particularly in different sectors, the sectors that have adopted a digital process across the board, and the ones that haven't have really struggled, I think, in this kind of instantaneous work from home movement. So moving on, I think from that kind of wider operational status, I want to dive into the kind of marketing plans. As Cary, as you said, the 2020 plan has gone out of the window. But I'm wondering if there has been any kind of continuation, or if you've made any amendments to the existing marketing plan, which would allow it to continue as you'd originally hoped that it would.
Well, I think in our case, I mean, the marketing calendar is still there. All of the marketing initiatives that we had planned for the year can be executed at any given time. I suppose right now it's just a matter of when we're going to execute them and when the proper time would be. Because obviously right now, I mean, we told ourselves we wouldn't go about doing our regular marketing. One, because we can't, and second, it probably isn't the appropriate time to do so. So it's really more of that we push back, say, community events, sales events, road shows, and things like that. So it's kind of just pushed back. And that's why we said we're taking it day to day, and we're seeing how the condition of this whole situation is going to play out. Because if we start to see that there's some improvements in the overall landscape or the overall situation, then maybe little by little we'll start putting back more ads on social media. We'll start reaching out to more of our buyers, things like that. But for now, we made a conscious effort to, well, one, we would redirect a portion of our marketing budget to make sure that, one, our employees are paid,
Right.
our workers are paid, and also to CSR programs, because we felt that that's really what's needed right now. We feel that we can go back to normal once the situation will allow us to do so. But all the events and all of the initiatives, they're all ready to be executed once we're able to do so.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point. It's unpredictable, and the kind of level of commitment with execution is difficult, particularly with any traditional marketing activations that you have going. As far as the team's concerned, though, they're still communicating with potential buyers. They're still kind of not necessarily hard selling, but maintaining relationships with customers and investors.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the message that we gave to our sales team, is that, well, one, be in touch with them, even if it's simply just to check in on them and see how they're doing, but also to update them, whether it's through our social media pages or, through calls or whatnot, and just talking to them about what we're doing as a company. What are the CSR efforts that we're doing? What are some of the project updates, if ever there are any? So we're still keeping that relationship warm. We're still making sure that they see us on social media, so that at the right time, when we can go out and sell to them in a more, how would you say, in a more normal manner, then we would be able to do so. But at least they would know about what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks as a company. And I think that's really important because we've been very active with our CSR activities in Davao. And at the end of the day, when you're talking to your buyers, it's really important that they know, what you are as a company, what's in your DNA, and how have you been helping the community, and are you doing it out of the goodness of your heart, or are you doing it just for show? And what kinds of activities are you doing? So I think it's important that we still keep in touch with them in that sense, and that they know and they understand what we're doing.
Yeah. I follow the Damosa land community page on Facebook, and you're pretty active throughout, even with or without crisis. There's always lots of interaction going on with the local communities. And
well, I think that's and that's because our business group has been we've been active in Mindanao for the last 70 years. So I mean, we pride ourselves in being, I guess, quote unquote, the homegrown team.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for us to really be in touch with them and really be on the ground with the community, and of course even with our own employees as well.
Sure. Okay, thank you. And I guess, I mean, to kind of contrast that with Filinvest, you've obviously got portfolio of brands, Vince, across price points, appealing to different markets. So I'm curious, has there been any continuity across that in any way?
I mean, you hit it on the head, Mark. I mean, continuity is definitely what we want to accomplish here. And I would also agree with Cary in that, the tactics are out the window at this stage. The business objectives remain the same. Our strategies are, for the most part, remain the same. But how we do it, the action plans that underpin these strategies have now changed. I mean, clearly, you can no longer do face-to-face conversations with your clients, which is what we always did. And now you're forced to do everything via a digital platform or via telecommunications, via technology, if you may. And I think one of the things that has really allowed us to have a semblance of normalcy, Mark, if you may, is that we've invested in technology throughout, for so many years now. And I think specific to our customer interface, we're really able to understand our customers. We've invested on analytics. So at any given time, given the different brands that we have and given a different geographic playing field that we play in, we're able to understand who these consumers are, what are their pain points, what are their happy points, if you may.
Yeah.
What makes them tick. And because of our understanding of them, we've decided much earlier on that we want to invest in an automated booking process. So part of our work from home protocol, apart from making all of our employees productive whilst being in the comforts of their own home, is we're still able to communicate to our stakeholders, our customers specifically, continue to benefit from our automated booking process. It's really an app that allows our sellers to have a conversation with our buyers and be in a position to provide them accurate selling prices, unit prices, and if they agree that that the buyer wants to get it, we can easily book via that app the particular unit that the buyer wants. We also have in place, and it's been here for several years now, what we call an electronic customer relationship management portal. What this really does is we manage the selling pipeline or the sales funnel, if you may, of our sellers, and we're able to identify what are their humps, what are their challenges, and be in a position as a developer to intervene at any point in time. So at any point in time, I'm also able to identify what the training needs of my sellers are.
Sure.
And come up with digital-based training programs. And our training head actually manages our training via Zoom, and he's been having this almost on a 3 times a week basis. So clearly, our priority as an organization, as Filinvest, really is to maintain our customer focus, maintain customer centricity, despite all of these things that are happening around us. Always know what the customers are, what the customer wants, and also be in a position to invest in the success of our sales force. And it is very important that despite everything that's happening to us, that these 2 things remain at the forefront of what we do.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to move on similar topic, but I guess a bit more forward thinking in that. We talked about your existing kind of marketing strategies and how you're continuing with those or making amendments to them so that you can continue with your calendars. Are you now starting to brainstorm the different ways of approaching the marketing strategy and I guess providing a safety net for similar crises in the future? Are you looking at different platforms perhaps or different apps, or developing different parts of your marketing team to better cope with a crisis like this?
Oh, that was for me. I'm sorry.
Sorry, and either Vince would be great.
Okay. Well, yes, we continue to look at investments in alternative platforms. I mean, clearly, this kind of event made that even more necessary, if not even more obvious to all of us. But I just want to go back to that whole point on having a robust analytics platform. I think one of our key strengths as a nationwide developer is that we're able to look into the customer, understand what the customer wants, and come up with measurements that allow us to generate insights on what the customer is, understand his values, understand his aspirations, and come up with focused digital content that precisely address these aspirations or precisely meet these values. And also on the Salesforce side, really be more, I mean, if at all anything, be more deliberate and purposive, if you may, in hiring the right salespeople. Be more purposive and deliberate in their training curriculum. And today we can actually develop personalized training curriculum for all of them. And also be in a position to intervene with our brokers and come up with appropriate B2B solutions for all of them. Because at the end of the day, it's really all about tooling up our business partners.
Sure.
Gone are the days when you go to a mall or you go to an event and you talk to people and you tell them what you want. I mean, sure, that will always be there, but I think the key differentiator now is what kind of digital platforms you're able to put in place that will allow you to have a sharper sales force, that will allow your business partners as well to have a 360 view, if you may, of the business environment that they play in, and be in a position to recommend concrete solutions for them that will allow them to take advantage of opportunities in their areas that they're present in.
Okay, thank you, Vince. And I'm just curious to know Cary mentioned it just now about the kind of type of message and that you're delivering as your kind of marketing messaging. But has that changed for you, Vince? Are you looking to highlight potentially different selling points for your projects? I know there's obviously a big focus on kind of health and hygiene and air quality and things like that. Is that something that do you think we're likely to see in terms of people's priorities when it comes to choosing, a house or a condo or whatever they're looking to invest in?
That's a very good point, actually, Mark, because I think what this whole event has really brought home is the need for a very strong property management organization.
Mm-hmm.
A strong property management organization ensures exactly all the points that Cary mentioned a while ago. Ensure that that the place is clean, the place has been sanitized, and that the community functions as a whole, as one organic whole, that that is concerned for each other, that generates information, that generates care and compassion for each other, and essentially recreates a lifestyle that everybody wants while still maintaining safety protocols.
Sure.
And I think that's one clear differentiator right now that's really come to the forefront. And specific, if you may, to how things will be after this whole thing is over, after hopefully COVID-19 is over. The name of the game at this stage really is how to reconnect with our customers, because let's not forget that at this point in time, our customers are essentially more concerned about their basic needs. I mean, if they open their social media, they're barraged with all sorts of really scary, fearful messages. Every day there's account of how many people have fallen ill, how many people have unfortunately passed away. So people tend to be very conservative. And as a developer, your role, our role, if you may, is to be there for our customers and guide them through this process. Because eventually the sun will shine. And eventually it's our role as a developer to allow our customers, or to help our customers, reconnect to their aspirations, reconnect to their dreams,
yeah.
and be in a position really to guide them through achieving their dreams, if you may, of owning their own home.
Sure. Thank you. And Cary, I guess, is there anything from Damosa Land? Are you kind of looking at new marketing plans, new marketing platforms, new ways of communicating information through your selling network? Anything that you're kind of looking to change based on what's happened so far?
Well, I think for us, first of all, on the marketing message, I think that's something that's still going to remain. And one thing is that some of the themes that we've always been harping on throughout the life of this company, all the more are going to become more pronounced now when we can start marketing normally. So for instance, aside from just selling real estate, we've always been an advocate for additional investment coming into Mindanao and coming into Davao. So that's one. And I think that in our office segment, I think a lot more office tenants such as BPOs will start to look at um, cities such as Davao and other key cities as an alternative destination for their business. Even for our industrial park business, I think we'll see a lot more manufacturing companies coming our way, just because of business continuity. We're also big into flexible workspaces, and so that's something that we will be investing in a lot of in the next coming years. So I think that's another segment that will probably see a lot of growth. So I think those kinds of business that we've been advocating for, I mean, we will still be keeping that message that these are good businesses to be in, that Mindanao and Davao especially is a good investment destination. So to answer your question on the marketing message, I think that's still going to remain. And I think now all the more so we can really take advantage of that message. On the technology side, I think definitely we are looking at different kinds of platforms that we can inject into our business, not just in marketing, but in terms of operations, communication, etc. And it's something that we've been making a conscious effort to do over the last few years. In fact, just recently, or it's actually ongoing, I joined um, a business reality show, and we were talking to a lot of investors that hopefully we'll be working with. Hopefully, their technological solutions are those that we can really put on board into our existing platforms. And the message is also very similar to what Vince's is, and it's really how to get the message to your customer better and how to understand your customers better, and also how to get to them quicker, I would say. And I think that's something that the technology will do. So especially with this with this ongoing crisis that we're in, all the more so now, I think we have to really speed up that process of bringing on board some of these technologies.
Yeah, it's interesting you said speed up. I was just thinking then that a lot of these things were perhaps somewhere down the line, but I think what this crisis has thrown up is the need to kind of get it moving and kind of accelerated the digital transition of real estate developers in the Philippines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just chime in on the point that Cary made? It's rather interesting. I've and at the risk of carbon dating myself, Mark and Cary, I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I'm guilty as charged. And I've actually seen how sales and marketing has evolved through over 2 decades. I mean, when I first began working in marketing, the way we did marketing then was pretty shotgun. I mean, you have a message, put out an ad in newspaper, print, and cinema back then. Oh, in those days, billboard advertising was a new thing. So it was a shotgun approach. And then at some point, marketers evolved in the Philippines and said, we got to do this more efficiently. So, hence was born one-to-one communication. So where you have a message and you want to be able to communicate this directly with people. Hence, you have all of these bar events, you have all of these face-to-face conversations with sellers, with buyers, I should say, and you have all of these mailers and etc. It was all designed to try to customize the message to your buyer. And then now it's really all about people talking to each other, not the manufacturer or brand owner talking to customers, but it's actually customers talking to customers. And I think if I can just dimensionalize this a little bit, a couple of days ago there was this news all over social media about RITM supposedly soliciting or asking for help from business owners to house their frontliners. And And I mean, as you know, because of the enhanced community quarantine in Luzon, it's very difficult for medical frontliners these days to get transportation to bring them home or to take them to work. And so a lot of them eventually end up staying at home. And unbeknownst to a lot of people, we've actually been helping our ITM a lot. We've decided we've accepted their frontliners, and we've housed them in Palms Country Club in Alabang. So when news of this came out, we felt that we needed to correct the information. And so within that same hour that we got wind of this, we came out with a communication telling everybody that, we're actually supporting and helping our ITM. This is on top of the 100 million peso donation that we already gave them, that is meant rather for procuring test kits and personal protective equipment for the frontliners, which we are still in the process of fulfilling, because there are a lot of logistics behind it that need to be considered. But on to the point about this story. See, when this story broke out and we sent out a response, within 15 minutes, I had people in my social media platform talking about how Filinvest helped people. I never said anything to them. It's essentially people echoing your message across the different platforms, and this is just such an amazing experience, because it really hammers in the point of us developers. I mean, Cary and myself coming up with very specific messages, and letting that message reverberate across, because that message is relevant to our target audience.
It travels at lightning speed as well. So yeah, just to focus a bit more now on the property investors, the property seekers, and what kind of is the common concerns that you're seeing from investors at this time, and how are you able to mitigate those concerns at the moment? Go back to Cary.
Well, I guess it would really depend on which sector that we're talking about. And our business cuts across residential, office, industrial parts, commercial. So we got very varied responses and reactions across the different customers that we've had. For instance, in the office sector, I think the demand, I believe, is still there. Obviously the locators are just on a wait and see mode, and it's not very long. I mean, I think they just want at least for the quarantine period to be over first, and then after that, kind of wait and see. But the investment, I believe, is still going to happen. They're just obviously asking for a little bit of more time before committing, or a little bit more time before they start building out their offices. The same thing also with our industrial park business. The customers are still there, and I think for these types of customers, it's not really they have the capacity to invest. So it's really not a question of whether they can or they cannot. It's just really a matter of timing. At least that's what we're seeing. Sure. So we still believe that there's still going to be good, there's still going to be good demand from BPOs. Now, especially, we're probably going to see a lot more companies looking at alternative sites such as Mindanao to put their businesses, whether it's factories or offices or even some retail business. Where we probably saw a bit of hesitation is probably in the residential space. So with that, I think a lot of there were a number of buyers. I wouldn't say a big number, but there were definitely a number of calls from buyers asking if they can extend their payment period, yeah, or if the transaction hadn't been done yet, then they would prefer to transact after the quarantine period is over. So it really varied across the different businesses that we're in. But I do believe that we will have a strong rebound after this. I'm one of those believers. I guess I'm an optimist. Hope I'm right. But I think I'm optimistic that we'll still see the spending coming in after this whole I guess, call it a debacle is over.
Yeah, I think we've we had a previous webinar. Kenneth Stern of Remax was on. He commented that he'd spoken to the country head of Italy, and that they're now kind of on the other side of the peak of their crisis, and that some of the offices have started to open, and they're starting to close deals. I've read a couple of promising stories out of China as well, in that the pent up demand is now kind of being released. So I think that kind of bodes well for the Philippines, potentially in the kind of short to mid-term.
Hopefully, and if I can just add to that, then we were kind of making a joke, and we were saying that you might see an uptick in residential sales for, say, studio units or one-bedroom units. So can you imagine if currently an individual is living at home with his parents and with his whole family, and they're under quarantine for a whole month or 2 months? Can you just imagine they're probably seeking their own space and their own privacy. So there might be buyers that are looking to have their own homes. And I think the one good thing about real estate is that at the end of the day, you need to have a home, right? So I mean, crisis or no crisis, I think ultimately people will look to real estate as a good safe haven investment, both as an investment and, of course, a place for them to live.
Yeah, that's a good point. We actually, pre-recording, we spoke about the advantages of not living in a condo as well at the moment, in that the amenities and the majority of places have closed down. Do you think that's going to? Do you think that might change the priorities of the property seekers when they're looking to purchase? Do you think there might be a more of a demand now for the house and lot option?
Well, I guess to that point there might be, but it depends also on where they work. I mean, if they still work in the city or downtown areas, then you probably won't be able to find that many house and lot projects, and condos will still be the best option for them. So I mean, even if you really wanted to, have the space and to be able to be outdoors and things like that, but if you're still going to end up living very far from your workplace, then that's obviously going to be a factor in your decision making as well.
No-brainer. Okay, Vince, how about you? How about your property seekers, your investors? Are you seeing any kind of themes with the concerns that we're seeing, or anything positive even maybe?
I mean, clearly there's a short-term financial jolt amongst all of our clients and buyers, and Cary alluded to it a while ago, because for our we have malls all over the country, and because they had to shutter their business, they've requested and for rental holidays, if you may. And actually, even long before they asked for it, we already granted rental holidays for specific tenants of ours whose business could no longer operate for whatever reason. So that's one of the issues that we've addressed. The other issue also has to do with, like I mentioned a while ago, a buyer fearfulness. They're not quite sure where they want to go. They're trying to secure their basic needs. They want to secure their food. They want to have extra cash right now to tie them down for any eventuality that may or may not happen. So clearly there is that short-term jolt even on the residential sector that we are experiencing as well in Filinvest. But I mean, I'm also an optimist like Cary, and I'm sure like you as well, Mark. And like I said, the sun will shine tomorrow, and all of these things will eventually be a thing of the past, hopefully. And I see that buyers will eventually rebound. I see that buyers will once again go back to the very core of why they want to buy their own homes in the first place, whether it's to get out of your in-laws' house, or you get out of your parents' house and be independent, or an investment theme that you want to pursue, or it's because you just want to pursue an independent lifestyle that clearly defines you as a person. Whatever those motivators may be, those will still be present even long after this whole virus, this whole COVID-19 virus has taken its toll. So So as a developer, our role is to be there for our clients. Our role is to continuously communicate to our clients, and our role really is to be able to guide our clients through making the right decisions. And being a developer of national concern also, we have provided homes to over 106,000 families. It's also incumbent upon us to ensure that they make those right choices. It's also incumbent upon us that we provide customers what they need, or what even before they know that they need it. So a big chunk of it, and then I kind of want to loop back to our whole conversation on strategy a while ago. A big chunk of it really has to go back, us developers going back to understanding shifts in consumer behavior, shifts in consumer philosophy. I do not foresee major shifts, but I do see minute changes, nuanced changes, if you may, that will necessitate changes in how we communicate to them, in how we service them, and more importantly, the kind of homes that they are looking for now. You asked a while ago, Mark, whether people might gravitate towards horizontal or house and lot situation as against condominiums, and I would actually agree with Cary. It kind of depends on their circumstance. If you're living in an urban area like Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao, it's really a question of affordability. Can you afford to get a house and lot in these three areas? And if you can, and people want to have a house and lot, there are very specific projects available for them. But for those who don't want to live in house and lot, or do not have the financial capacity to get house and lots in these urban centers, there are condominiums that are tailor-made for their price range, depending on which price range they are. So it really depends on the circumstance. I don't envisage a mass migration towards one kind of housing towards the other. I anticipate demand will continue to be robust. In fact, as we speak, because we're essentially business as usual in Filinvest, we continue to engage our buyers. We continue to talk to them. Some of them still make bookings. Some of them still are still making those sales. And so, once I imagine once the enhanced community quarantine is over, my next problem is how to accommodate, or the next challenge is how to accommodate all of these buyers, potential buyers who've expressed interest in buying into our projects, and that's a very nice problem to have down the road, Mark.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. And if you say the sun will shine tomorrow, I'll make a note of that. Thank you. I'm going to finish off with one more question, but it's more for you guys, I guess. It's a kind of unprecedented time. We're all having to make decisions with very little experience. So I'll offer the opportunity for you to ask either one of yourselves a question, if you have a question for each other.
Go ahead, Vince. Why don't you go ahead?
This is actually the toughest question you gave us, Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I thought I'd throw in a curveball at the end. It doesn't matter if you don't. I just thought it might be interesting.
Well, all right. Why don't I go ahead? And this is maybe not just for you, Vince, and for Filinvest, but I guess for all of us in the real estate space, or in the property development space. Are you of the opinion that there's going to be some major shift or some big changes that are coming our way in the industry, whether it's in the behavior of buyers, or in the products that they're investing in, or just anything? Is there anything that you're already predicting?
I mean, what's very clear right now is I think buyers are more conscious now on the kind of development that they will be going into. And we kind of talked about this a little bit a while ago, and it has really to do with buyers wanting to make sure that they're moving to a place that has the appropriate cleanliness, sanitation, property management protocols in place. And I think for all of us in the industry, it's something that we need to look into if we have not looked into it at all. It's something that we need to pay more attention to. And ultimately, it's probably one of those that will be a defining competitive advantage to whosoever is able to provide clear, consistent, and acceptable, if you may, safety and security protocols to our homeowners. But by and large, I don't really see a seismic shift, if you may, in how in demand, in how buyers behave. If at all any, I think this whole community quarantine has exposed us all to the need to invest in technology, need to invest in data analytics to understand our consumers more, for the need to invest in technology that facilitates transactions of our sellers, be it an automated booking process, be it an electronic customer relationship management portal, or be it an online customer service portal, or be it an automated commission release system that is free from manual intervention. Business partners ensure that their business also continues. So I guess that kind of leads me to the third point, which is as a responsible corporate citizen, we also need to be sure that not only are we ensuring our own business continuity, but that our suppliers, that our supply chain, if you may, that our partners also continue to have business as usual, because any breakdown in that chain will really hurt us in the end. So I think just to kind of bookend that point, I think that is actually one of the very first things that our president secured. She made sure that the entire chain was secured, that our suppliers get paid, that our employees get paid, that our sellers get paid, that our customers know what's going on, and that they can continue to
Yeah,
transact.
no, I completely agree with you, and I think definitely the virtuous companies are the ones that are going to make it out of this, a lot stronger, and people will really respect the likes of Filinvest and other companies that are doing the same for that. So completely also agree with you when you say that it's going to be so important to have a good property management arm. Obviously, companies such as yourselves and others already do have that, but all the more so now. I agree that there's going to be so much focus on that. And for other developers, smaller developers such as ourselves, we do have our own property development arm as well. But now, we're already thinking of how to invest more in it. It's going to become an even more integral part of our whole operation, not just a service that you have to have. It's something that people will really be looking at very closely, I think. Yeah.
I think one thing I've seen from talking to a few of our clients over the past couple of weeks is more of an interest in kind of increasing the materials that they have available to pass on to the clients, and not relying so heavily on the face-to-face interaction, which I think is kind of, it comes from a level of trust which is required from the buyers, but also we haven't kind of crossed over, and that part of the buying process hasn't been digitalized yet. So I think there could be a slight shift towards a more digital process when it comes to the home buying process, in terms of VR tours, video tours, and the way that's kind of communicated.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And in fact, as part of our business continuity protocol in the organization, we had to digitize some of our project communication materials that had not been digitized. And so, for the first week of the quarantine, we were essentially going through several projects and digitizing our communications to them so that it could be used in these sorts of platforms.
Okay, that brings me to the end of the questions. Thank you both for your insights and optimism. I really progressive, forward-thinking conversation. Very, very optimistic. So that's hopefully left our viewers feeling the same. Thank you to our viewers for joining us. Please do, again, leave your comments and questions underneath, and we'll do our best to get back to you on those. And we hope that you'll join us all on the next Lamudi webinar series later in the week. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's a pleasure being here.